Hello all, I guess the sound is on. Gonna try to do a video here on Gelvin Valley, and I've never done a video before in my life, especially not one with sound in it, so I don't know, this is a map, this is an old game at this point, and just as a map that I always liked, so kind of got back into it a little bit, and I mainly want to try this just to test a few things out. I don't know if I'll ever post any more videos. It's more a curiosity to me than anything else. Uh, and I suppose I hate my voice, but it's the only one I have, so I guess if you don't like it, you can hit the mute button. But this is Gelvin Valley, Farming Sim 15, and actually, I think the map was available in FS13 and then it was brought into FS15. The map creator is Wild Wild Wes. I think his first name is Wes. And you can see all the details in the map on it. I don't really want to cover that here. Like I say, this is mainly a test to see how my microphone works and all that kind of thing. And I'm in the middle of wheat harvest here. I planted all the fields to wheat. I'm probably 82 hours into it, I think. Um, you really don't start out with very much. Couple tractors, a little bit of equipment, and according to the manual, you're given the cruddiest fields on the map, some of the steepest, nastiest, hardest to reach fields. That's kind of what you start. They're the small fields, and very few arable. Now I have all this tilled up and planted to wheat and whatnot, but I had to run the plow through here and get it all prepared and ready. So there's a lot of work you have to do, and you don't really start with very much, and you don't get very much. So it's kind of, you'll see up here I have a negative cash, 35,000. Let me tell you, my loan is maxed out, and I basically have nothing. So this is my third harvest. I've managed to sell a couple fields, bought another couple as replacements, so it still feels like I'm making progress. But it's kind of a tough slog, so it's a real challenging map from that perspective. And I'm just seeing here now, as I hit record, I don't know what that bar is across the top of my screen. It looks like the bricks on the house. Yeah, don't know what that is. But yeah, this is just a test. So I got a number of mods in here that I'm trying using, damage mod, that kind of thing. As you can see, my tractor, there's a lot of hard edges in this map, so anything and everything it runs into, whether traffic or whatever, into the ditches, it just, the damage just proliferates. So it gives something, I guess you have to spend a lot of money on repairs. I've even tiled it back in the script a little bit, and it's still, yeah, well, and I'm running course play. That's probably not a good idea, but course play and FS15, I don't know if they finished development of it or just what the deal was. It doesn't seem as advanced as some of the later versions that came out, so I see strange things with the tractor just ramming into walls and doing wonky things, so it racks up the repair bills, which I guess is okay. But I started playing this map in the FS13 version with a couple of my boys back when they were interested in farming sim, and they aren't really interested in it anymore, but I had a really good time with them on the FS13 version of the map. And, I reached out to the author of the map just to share, the good time that we had had on there. We'll see if the mic came back on. Trying to figure all this out. Anyways, I played this in the FS13 version, with my boys, and I'd reached out to the map author. I really had a good time with it, and I won't say we played a ton on it then, but really enjoyed it, have some pleasant memories, and come to find out, I met him on FSUK. That used to be a pretty prominent site for farming simulator news and mods and those kinds of things before it was shut down. And so we kind of developed an interaction on there, and come to find out at the time FS15 was the most recent version, and Wes was in the process of updating it to FS15. And kind of over the course of time, I ended up helping him do a little testing on the map for the FS15 version. Had a lot of fun posting some things on FSUK about the map, and just had a ball with it. Really enjoyed interacting with Wes too. He's very smart. I don't know what he does in his day job, but the amount of knowledge and skill it takes to put together a map like this and have it look nice and everything. I mean, it's really a lot. I mean, the mapper needs to know a little bit of everything. Not only how to make something look aesthetically pleasing to the eye, like this map really is, but I mean, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it too, whether it's finding 3D objects or scripting certain things into the map, and Wes did just a beautiful job at it. I would rank this map right up there with the very best, and to my knowledge, it's the only map he ever did, so I don't know how long he played the game. If he ever hears this video, maybe he can indicate it in the comments, but it's just a brilliantly put together map, and very pleasing on the eyes. And at the time, I mean, I was so impressed with his work, and I don't know if people remember the days of FSUK. They had there'd be mod teams or whatever they would sponsor or support on there. They'd have their own pages and whatnot, and one of those modding teams was called Mapper's Paradise, and I think it's still around. I don't know who all's in it, or just what ended up happening with it, but a lot of the big names of mappers, a lot of them spend some time with Mapper's Paradise. Most notably, I would think of is Bullet Bill. The one that made Coldboro Park Farms, and more recently Lone Oak Farms, and some of those kinds of things. Just a brilliant mapper himself. So, but when I saw what Wes did, I kind of went hand in hand with the guy that ran Mapper's Paradise, and I said, hey, I think you really need to check this out, because the quality of work that Wild Wild West is doing, reminds me of the kind of work that Mapper's Paradise was putting out. So I think he became part of Mapper's Paradise for a while. I have no idea how all that went for him with them. I seem to recall at some point there was going to be another update to the map after this one, called the Gelvin Valley map. And I think it basically was taking the same map, and they had put in a whole bunch of different games and whatnot into it, like a soccer game. And at one point, I was approached to write a script that for rally cars, if you're gonna do a sprint or something in a car from point A to point B, something that would run a timer so you could see how long it took and could compare times with others. And I remember writing that up, but I don't remember the map ever coming out in its modified states. Oh, perhaps at some point, maybe with the advent of FS17, folks just lost interest or whatever. So really enjoyed that time with Wes, and like I say, it's just an awesome map. FSUK is down now, but I know you can still find this all over the web if you just do a simple search for it. So, played it with my boys, mainly the FS13, but I never really gave the FS15 version a try beyond a cursory look, for what little I did and helping with the testing or what have you. So, here recently I was going through some old videos, and there's a particular YouTuber I've always enjoyed listening to. He went by Eustace Farmer at the time. I kind of got acquainted with him right as he was starting his channel, and just a great guy, and I really enjoyed interacting with him. And I can't remember if he saw this map or if I told him about it. But however it was, he also became acquainted with Wild Wild West, and I think he did kind of a series, Let's Play series, if you will, on Gelvin Valley. And so, looking at some of those old videos now, several years old, just kind of rekindled my interest in the map. And so here I am on it again, trying this time to make a go at it. And I'm, like I said earlier, I think I'm about 82 hours in, and I don't know where it's gonna go. I'm just kind of having a ball doing this in my spare time while trying to figure out how this YouTube video stuff works and testing out a little bit of audio. As I recall, and I think I've looked at it since too, there's maybe a couple tiny errors or warnings in the map. And this is version 2 of the map, by the way. I think in the FS15 version there was 2 that came out in FSUK. As happens so many times, maps are so huge, it's impossible to find everything in one go with the testing. So a lot of times Mapper does the best they can with whatever testing team they have, and it went through FSUK's testing department, and then it just gets out to the general public, and the general public starts finding all kinds of stuff that need to be fixed. So I think version 2 came out. The one I'm playing here happens to be version 2, and and I don't know what the difference is between the two versions. I think it was probably just a bunch of fixes between the two. I since have made a number of tweaks to the map too. Nothing really even cosmetic. Some of it is just, whether it's at Combine, and I'm from the U.S., so if this is to represent British or Irish or Scottish areas of the world, and some of the like I see that rock wall kind of in the background on the picture right now, and the narrow gates. I'm just not used to that, and I don't know if some of it was misscaled for the equipment that's used on there. So some of the tweaks I've done in the map is just to remove collisions on some of the hard objects, so I can move equipment in and out of the fields. Although West did try to make multiple entrances to all the fields, so with some of them being double gated, so that there's always a way to kind of get in and take a look at it. And I'll show one here in a little bit, matter of fact, because the next field up that I'm going to go to is this steep one in here, and there's just one entrance on that field, just a tiny little gate. And that's also something unique about this map, or not many maps have it, is you can't just get into the field from anywhere other than a gate. All around these there are fences of some kind, or brush thicker than the hair on a dog's back. You can't get in. There's some kind of an obstacle or a deep ditch, that prevents you from being able to access it anywhere other than through the gates. So that's kind of just an extra challenge to contend to. Why don't I get this last little bit here, and I'm going to have to change fields here. And see, this is where I don't know what I'm doing. I'm more of a thinker than a talker. Maybe that's why I chose accounting as a profession. So it's going to be hard for me just to talk while I'm doing stuff here. So bear with me. I'll take this out on the road, and we'll take it to the next field. Incidentally, Wes also had a series of videos that he did on this map, and his playing style is different from mine. He tends to be more in cab, like this, and I've always preferred being out of cab. Maybe some of it's just my own laziness or whatever, in being able, it's a whole lot easier to back stuff up if you're out of cab and see kind of where you're going. But I know for realism, being in cab is something different. But plus, I really like seeing the beauty of the map. And being in cab, you're not able to see, like that river going by over there, or just a lot of the trees, the sky, and whatnot. So I tend to prefer, being out of cab as I play. So, and he might be the only one that ever even takes a peek at this video anyhow. So here's one of the things like I edited on the map. This red panel here used to be a hard object, and I don't think I can fit this silly combine. Here, let me turn off its blinkers. Yeah, if you'll see it, it just isn't going to fit through there. There's no collisions on the gates, but there used to be a collision on this red panel, so I just removed it, and now we can just kind of cheat and sneak over the top of it. But I figured that allows me to get this combine in here. And this combine, by the way, there's not very many mods like this. It's what's called a hillside combine, in that it follows the contours of the topography of the map. And I don't know how many people have seen those, but in real life they're very handy. I know the farm I worked on in my growing up years had several hillside combines, and really the purpose of them in a conventional threshing machine, like you see here, keeping it level, is to keep the straw walkers and the grain shoe, or the sieves, which is in the lower part of the combine here, right where the chaff comes out. It's to keep it level so that it's able to, efficiently thresh the grain, so you aren't throwing a lot of the good grain out of the back. So as steep as these hills are on here, I went and found a mod that was a hillside combine, and it has a few issues. I've tried to fix a couple of them. I mean, it used a little level to Kingdom Come until, I kind of fixed it. So you'll see the leveling rods on the side here. There's one kind of going to the wheelbase. There's another one over here. I think at a certain point, if it over levels, the rod, the cylinder will come right out of it, which kills immersion a little bit. But I've tried to fix it a little bit as we go. But otherwise, I like having this combine here, and I enjoy seeing it work the hills a little bit, have a little bit hillside action. Let me see if I can sneak in the gate. Yeah, do just a little bit here to get him going. Here I can do a little in-cap stuff. Doing the outer rounds are always particularly challenging. I'm using the auto combine mod. You can see it just turned on there, which takes things round and around the field, but it's very handy. There you can kind of see the leveling effect of the combine. You can see if I zoom in. Aha, there it is. Yeah, see that cylinder rod? It's held up by nothing but air, so if I knew how to 3D model, maybe I could fix that and extend it a little bit longer. They used to not be lined up at all. At least now they're lined up, and it isn't totally leveling everywhere. It used to take the wheels and totally jam them up into the engine, and everywhere else just looked totally wonky. But I'll let him work and go to the tractor here. I gotta change his course, get him out of here, and send him up to the other field. Yeah, course play is kind of been a challenge working with on this map. It's handy to have, I guess. I don't know, maybe that's a difference in my playing style. I don't like doing every task on my own. I don't know, I guess I think of the farm as a unit and as a business, and something I look at as a whole. So when I get tired of doing something, I like to be able to hire it so they can take care of it while I think about what I want to build into the farm. So course play can be handy, but like I said earlier, I don't know that they finished fully developing it for FS15. Alright, he's coming around here. I don't know that I have a course set up to handle field 4. Yeah, so I'm going to have to develop one. And it'll kill immersion a little bit, but can't really help that. There's some limitations on how courseplay works. Maybe there's a way around it, and I just don't know, but the first steps of setting up a course have to be within a certain distance. I'll show you in just a little bit. Oh, Auto Combine's trying to figure out what it wants to do. Yep, keep moving. Some of the limitations of the hired help. Maybe we could just say it's the reduced skill of a hired combine driver. I'm going to try to top this off, and then I'll set up a new course play to take it to storage. Probably should just flat out sell it so I can get some cash in the bank, because I think the interest load is killing me at the moment. Oops. Got any more? I must not be under the pipe. Aha, there we go. He'll probably be waiting on us by the time we get back, but that's alright. So in order to set up a course, the first few have to be within a certain distance before it'll let you do a turn. So I'm going to start it here. I know it's in the middle of the wheat. Just to take a straight path, and I think you need 2. There's 2 marks, so I think it'll let me turn the corner now to come down here. I'll take it to the storage over here. There's a manual that accompanies this map, by the way, and it's really handy because I don't think there's a lot of markers in terms of where sell points are or storage points. I mean, I had a dickens of a time relearning where the storage point was because I don't think that was put in the manual. It's over here. I learned under this overhang. But the manual contains a lot of useful information in there. I wish every mapper would make a manual describing their map and telling the backstory and what have you. Let me drop this in here. Pretty much put wheat in every single field. Why wheat? I don't know. It could have been barley. In this map, I like having multiple revenue streams. There's a lot of other things built into it, but at the moment I'm just doing arable farming. So wheat, of course, has straw, could do barley, but also have straw. So we'll combine it, and then we'll have another thing to do, another revenue opportunity. Whether that beats canola overall or some other crop, I don't know. It's just what I'm doing at the moment. Try to get this course set up, and then it's just laughable watching course play when the combine is on the first couple rounds. This little guy tries going through fences. It tries every which way it can, and yeah, once you get several rounds in the field, it finally works, you know, kind of as you like it to. Alright, there we go. So I'm going to call that 04 combi to storage. Oh, yeah, this is where mod conflicts happen. This is a teleport mod, which we're not using, so I need to get out. Somehow that's activated when I try to save that. Alright, the course is saved. I'll try to get him going. I think the combine must be ready. Yep, he's still set up on that. Yeah, so he's not too particular where he goes. You know, I think I even have pathfinding set up on this. Where is it? And I thought pathfinding would kind of look at, you know, where the crop was and where it wasn't, but maybe it's for something else. Yeah, see right there, the ding-dong, you just head straight for the fence, and he gets all confused. Combine's over here, idiot. So, especially on the outer rounds, you may have to reset him a few times. It's just part of using course play, I guess. But he'll eventually figure it out. maybe. And the fields are so steep in here too. Sometimes he isn't close enough to the combine. Sometimes he's too close. So yeah, that's way high. Yeah, the particle animation doesn't quite come down to the trailer like it should. I even altered it on the pipe for the combine. It used to be kind of headed out more at a 90-degree angle with a pipe. But I don't know, that seemed kind of unrealistic because it seems like when grain comes out of there, the path of least resistance is straight down. So anyway, all right, well, hopefully we can leave him for a little bit. That's the combine back over here. I've been following the combine with this little guy. This is one of the original tractors started on the map, so it isn't a very powerful tractor, so well, it doesn't matter how much power. It seems like every tractor in this game bogs down when you head up the hills. They're just so steep. I mean, this happens to be a flat piece down here. And maybe out of cab, it's hard to see just how steep that hillside is up there. But I don't think in real life I've ever worked in a field that was that steep. Um, for the entire field, so that would be a rough day working on something like that. So I'm just going to prep this a little bit for coming behind the combine. We'll bail this up later. That's at least something I can do as long as horseplay on the overloader with the combine is behaving itself. You know, that I can come and do this. Whoops, I missed a little bit. Oh well. Can't say I'm the best driver here. At the moment, I only have a keyboard hooked up. A friend of mine gave me a, oh, I don't even know what kind of a wheel it is. A Logitech wheel? Is that such a thing? Yeah, I'm sure it is. I had it set up on the previous computer. I just haven't reset it up on here, and I'm just so used to keyboard steering. That's pretty much all I know. But it can be kind of wonky. And my driving isn't the best. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a couple rounds and then I just switch to GPS mod, which I have installed on here. That just makes it handy. I don't know, maybe some people feel that's a little boring to just have it that straight, but I think it's helpful. It makes it a little more efficient. So the map author, I think, had installed, and in later versions of the game, as we know, I think as of FS15, it only had cattle that came with the base game, and an FS17, of course, well, and sheep, excuse me. FS15 had sheep also. But then in FS17, they added hogs and then horses in FS19, and so if you wanted to have pigs in FS15, you had to have a mod. And there's a bunch of mods developed for geese and all sorts of animals or whatever, but and also beef cattle. I think the cattle that come with the game are milk cattle only. So if you wanted to have a feeding beef operation or that type of arrangement or whatever, you had to go with mod, and the mod author in this case, or the mapper, has built that into the map, and I don't know that I've ever even done anything with those before, whether this map or others, but maybe at some point I'll explore those, but for now I'm just sticking with what I know how to do, which is, and not even very well at that, just a little bit of arable farming. So set him on GPS here, and yeah, it kind of messes up my rows going round and round, but that's all right. I just like having it straight, so when I come in with the baler, it isn't missing parts of the swath. Oh, well, that is one handy part about course play. It at least tells you when something's messing up. It's probably looking for a fence Oh yeah. Oh, he's trying to come into the old field. Hmm. My goodness. Oh dear, dear, dear. No, this could be a problem. Um, and this is why I have uh, teleport. I think, yeah, I gotta put him here. Let me see if I can put him back up here. Aha, okay, good. Hopefully no damage was done by that. Is he still on? Yep. But I think he's pretty close to full, so you know what? I'm just gonna drive now. That'll send him out. Yeah, the combine doesn't even really have that much in it, so we'll get him emptied and bring him on back. Yeah, course play is kind of ticklish. All these things to run into. It is what it is. Back here, I'll keep it straight. I don't know, I guess I chose to do wheat, all wheat on this, just to make it easy. What can I say? Hey, I'm an accountant. I'm pretty straight-laced now, I think, I guess. When I watched Wes's videos on the map, he has a number of them, and he must not like talking either. I heard very little talking in his videos. I wished he'd talked a whole lot, but I certainly understand it because I don't like the sound of my own voice either. But he had this mod, and I don't know it's called. It had something to do with the sell points where you could adjust them so you could sell pretty much anything at any sell point. Just it somehow would tweak the triggers, the sell point triggers on the fly. I left a comment on the video on it. He was gonna look into it for me. Um, maybe. I guess if he thinks of it. But this map in particular comes with some special challenges all on its own. And one of them, like I mentioned before, is just how steep the map it is. I don't know that I've ever played a map this steep, you know, where the fields are, you need Velcro to stay on the hills or something. And I know it doesn't take much of a slope, you know, with the physics of bales and what have you. Just kind of, oops, didn't mean to do that. With kind of how the game is designed, you know, you crank out a bale and it goes flying down the hill. Well, especially did so on here. And I know that can happen in real life, you know, if you get it going. I mean, gravity works every time. But a lot of times you'll still see round bales on the side of a hill. Sometimes farmers, you know, may um, change a little bit as to how they let them out the back before they just drop them off. But a lot of times the bales, I mean, they're not perfectly round, and they will sit kind of with the flat bottom or whatever on the hill. So that's one of the things that I tweaked, and it took just a couple lines of Lua code. It's real handy to where the bales, I mean, it's just a whole lot more stability to where they don't roll down the hill. They basically stay put, so you can come and get them, and yeah, and it just doesn't matter. I'm gonna leave this guy right here. I could bring him over there, but I don't want to interfere with the combine and the overloader, so we'll just let him sit. Alright, he's gonna wait until it fills, so yeah, and maybe with course play and hiring, I don't know, this is maybe everybody's different style. They say, well, now it's boring you to sit and watch. Well, I still like it. I don't get bored. Maybe I'll hop out here while it's, except now I'm kind of low. I do want to mention something here too, that I made a mod in FS17 that I tried to bring backwards to FS15. It's called Sky Swap, where the sky changes at midnight every day. I mean, there's basically, what is it, 4 types of sky, 5 types? You have a morning and an evening, so you see the sunrise, sunset, and then you have a day texture, like this right now, I believe is on the day texture, what you see all day long. And then there would be a night texture, what you would see at night, and then every now and again when it rains or hails or just gets cloudy, there's a 5th texture for what shows. And what this mod would do is swap out those textures so that every day you would have a different kind of sky to look at. So I tried to make it backward compatible with FS15, and I'm just looking up there. This isn't the sky that the mod author put in there. It's one that it's just a random one. Made a mod for this. It would swap stuff. What in the world is that tractor doing? He somehow hopped that fence. I have no idea how he managed that. That is just remarkable. But that is a problem. Let's put him back in the middle. There we go. Maybe there isn't a collision somewhere on that fence and he found it somehow. Who knows? Actually, I don't want to leave him there because the combine will probably come around before he's needs to be offloaded. But anyway, I tried to bring the Sky Swap mod, and so the mod itself had several different sunrises, sunsets, and day textures, and then I made a pack that went with it that had 200 to 300 different skies that you could throw in there that would swap all those out at random, and it appears to be working in here, so I'm kind of thankful for that. And some of the skies, like if you look at it real close, it's moving. I wanted to simulate the movement of clouds, so it appears it's slightly moving, so that's a good thing. So I guess that means it's working. I don't know. I figured it was one more little bit of variety the player could have, because I don't know, for any of us that have been on the farm or just lived day to day, the sky is never the same, and having the same sky time and time again in the game, I don't know, that just didn't seem realistic. So brought it backwards. Thankful it seems to be working. Another mod I'm using, I think one of the reasons, I didn't spend a lot of time playing the FS15 version of Gelvin Valley was I was working on my first mod at the time. I was trying to learn a little bit of Lua coding, and man alive, it took everything I could, and I'm still not very good at it. It was very, very tough, and the mod I was trying to make, I grew up on a rock pile. I mean, literally. At the home where I grew up, there was just rocks anywhere you poked a shovel into the ground. It was always hard digging for a post hole, just rocks. I think, a long time ago, there was a volcanic flow or something that came through, and at a certain elevation, there's just a ton of rocks. And I just remember on the farm, that I worked on, it was very rocky. We were picking up rocks every time we would till up a field. It would just bring more of them to the surface, and so there's a lot of rock picking equipment that we had, and some of the rocks, I mean boulders, they were so huge, they basically wouldn't be moved at all. You'd farm around them. Some were big and you couldn't get it out with machinery, so we would blast them with dynamite and that kind of thing. I have some fun memories of that too. But anyway, to try to simulate that whole thing, I was working on a mod, I think I called it Rock Spawn at the time, and to where if you had a plow or a chisel plow of some kind or a cultivator, those tines going into the ground, they're going to pick up rocks and dig them to the surface, and then the player has to go pick them up or do something with them. And so, yeah, I never really got around to fully playing or appreciating Wes's FS15 version of the map. So I'm trying to do that now a little bit, even though it's long overdue. And frankly, FS17, it was much easier to handle those rocks because then, they gave you could use your hands to pick them up and throw them and do those kinds of things. Whereas in the FS15 version, there's nothing you could pick up with your hands, in terms of 3D objects. I mean, you could pick up eggs, but you never saw the egg. You'd see it there and you'd touch it and it'd disappear, and I guess you just carried them in your pocket or something. So you really couldn't pick up rocks with it, but who cares about rocks? I realize that's kind of my nostalgia. A lot of people wouldn't care for that kind of a mod, and I gotta say my favorite feature of it is the ability to turn it off. If you get tired of it, you just turn it off, and it no longer digs up rocks. So this map, yeah, I just see my cache is continuing to deplete. I really should sell some of this. But this map, I mean, just look at it. You look out there, and the hills, like that big rounded hill in the distance, there's a radio tower on top of it. You can drive up to it. But look right next to it, kind of down in the valley, you see hills beyond and mountains beyond. Just looks seamless from here. And it isn't perfect, of course. When you get over to the edge, you're at the edge. I think the tools to mappers, or as mappers increase their skill, they're better able to make an edge to the map, that you can hardly tell when you're on the map and where the edge of it is. But whatever West chose to put on the edge here, I mean, it's just outstanding. You really feel like you are in a valley here, and no matter where you look. And a lot of times you go on a map and the mapper has tried their best to, put an edge on the map, but it just doesn't look realistic. Whatever, they've chosen, maybe it's all they could find. I don't know how many assets are available out there for mappers to pick their own border. I think the really good mappers, figure out a way to make their own, or they're able to make a 3D border edge, and depending on how oh, now this silly driver, he really likes that fence, doesn't he? We're going to turn him around. He likes it too much. So I don't know where Wes got this. It just looks terrific. I could open the map in the editor again. Maybe it's actually several different borders, that he's kind of put together as a collage. I don't know. All I know is it looks pretty good, for the most part. So I really like the ad and the realism. I mean, I guess we haven't looked at the um, map itself. Like if we look at a top-down map, I guess I could hit the 9 key and bring it up. But look at that. I mean, not a square corner to be found anywhere. And I know sometimes people's perception of the US is that all we have here is square corners, square fields, and it's just boring. But I live in Oregon, clear on the west coast of the US, and I gotta say, we got a lot of this. I mean, we have some, I think the farmers prefer it, when it's a square or flat and all that, but we got a lot of hills here, a lot of roads that just twist and turn and go here and there. I don't know that it's quite as steep as this, but this just feels real. And I know he says in the notes he based it on a particular region It'd be really cool to see pictures of that region sometime, or to even go there. I'll probably never make it over to the UK or Ireland, but it's kind of fun to dream about. But just an awesome looking map, in terms of realism. It's just obvious the map author put a ton of time into it. And I've never asked him if he used a, oh, what do they call it, a dim map, where you start with Google Earth or something that has all the topography information, and you can import that into the editor and use something real life, the way God made it, and then modify it as you need in there. It's so hard to just create something that looks real with a free hand. And maybe Wes did all this free-handed, I have no idea. But however he did it, it just fits and just looks real. And I've always appreciated that about the map, and it just makes it all the more immersive. And and the details. I mean, look at this. You got a dead tree here. I'm just kind of commenting on this at random. Weeds in various places, different kinds of weeds, all these bushes. He's got a fence interwoven in here, and different color bushes, the trees, and the ground landscaping. And that's just this one particular fence line here. You go into the towns, and you just see details all over. And so I'm continually learning new details or seeing new things, kind of as I get reacquainted with the map. And some details, I mean, are unique. I've never seen them anywhere on another map. For example, it isn't here, but at the top of the hill, like where, let's see, the livestock market, kind of just a field 18, a little bit to the left of field 16. There's when you go in there, it's really cool. You can hear the voice of an auctioneer selling, and I think I read in a note somewhere the OS had that it was real footage at of a sheep sale or something that his father had when he sold his farm or part of his farm back in the day. So it's really cool to see and have details like that in a map. It just makes them stand apart, from many others. And I think we've already talked about the elevation differences in here, steep hills, and to try to get to it. It's one thing to take this downhill and take it over to the storage point over there, but you basically have to climb out of the valley to sell this stuff. And let me tell you, this tractor moans and complains about it. It's just hard for them to pull the hills, and so yeah, it's pretty. There's a lot of elevation drop and rise in here that the player has to contend with, and it just adds to the challenge. And not only that, I mean, speaking of challenges, challenging economics. This field here too, I didn't show this, when starting, was just a grass hillside, and I kind of wanted to do arable, so I brought a plow in here, got it all fixed up, and planted it to wheat, and I'm running arable on here. But you only start with, oh, what is it, three? Well, maybe it's more than three, but they're really tiny fields. You don't have much arable. You have a bunch of areas that are just grasslands, and maybe that's how it is in real life. For all I know, I'm breaking the mold and planting crops here where there should be no crops. I really don't know. That's just kind of how I want to play it. But you really don't start with much. The tractors are underpowered. They can't even hardly pull the equipment up these hills. And all you have is a little bit of grass. And and I think he explains in the manual that he has modified the prices of the grains and what have you so that they're depressed, or maybe depressed is a wrong word, they're lowered from what they ordinarily would be, I guess, just to make it more realistic to this particular region of the world. So there's a lot of wheat here, but I'm still not going to make a lot of money on it. It's just going to be a tough slog to get through it all. Because, I keep seeing negative red ink pile up over there. So at some point I need to start selling this, and probably if I was smart, I would quit hiring all this done. So that would stop the bleed a little bit. But what can I say? I don't want to be the one driving that combine. Plus, he also has done something which maybe some other appers have done. This just indicates a level of thought that he's put on it. I'm using a mod on here. I think it's a Bank of Hagenstats. You can buy and sell fields. In the base game, you can only buy fields, I believe. But he has adjusted the pricing of the field. So if you want nice flat ground, you're going to pay through the nose for it to get it. Just like in real life, the better the ground, the more it's going to cost. Versus a steep hillside like this is going to be much cheaper. And this field we didn't have to pay for. It was just one of the starter fields. But if we tried to sell it, I don't think we'd get much for it. Probably at some point I will sell it, but I don't know. I kind of like watching that hillside combine work, so maybe we'll keep it. But really helpful to have dynamics like that in there. I guess if you want to challenge, some people like to play the game maybe for shorter periods than what I do. I like building a farm, setting down roots, and slogging it out until it's a profitable operation. But some people don't have the patience for that, or that just isn't their style of play. And I tend to have long saves. Once I start on one, it's going to take a long time before I get through it. And yeah, I just enjoy doing it that way. And this is a good app to do it on. I mentioned some unique stuff. I'm reminded, maybe we'll see it at some point. I think see, there's two hills off in the distance, one kind of in the middle, and then another one just to the right, and there's a deep valley between there, kind of where the river comes through. And somewhere in there, he built in like a car wreck, and you see over the side of a hill that is wrecked. I think it's a minivan or something with parts all over and everything, and I don't think there's any sound effects or noise or whatever, but just details like that. And when you look around, you see the level of thought, that he put into this map. It just makes it fun. And ditches. Oh my, don't get me started on the ditches. Every road, not only does it have traffic, almost every road, and in FS15 and beyond, the traffic, she no budge. In FS13 and before, I mean, you could rough up the traffic if they got in your way. You basically just drive over the top of them, drive through them, bump them out of the way, whatever. But in FS15, they became solid, solid blocks, to where you couldn't just move them out of the way really easy. So when you're going around in here, I mean, there is steep ditches on both sides of the road and narrow roads to boot. And so when you're trying to negotiate all this with traffic, um, or with courseplay, it's somewhat inevitable that you'll end up in the ditch. I think I've been lucky so far, but I know it's gonna happen. I think at the tops of the hills, yeah, it's another detail that just comes to mind. We're not on that field right now, but you get clear up to the heights. Like again, going back to that knob up there, there's a radio tower up top. There's a little bit of grass. You can bail up there or what have you. You go up there and you can literally hear the wind blow. It's kind of cool that the X, that he's added in on there. And come to think of it, I think in the manual he's even developed a backstory to the map. I don't remember what it is offhand, and I'm inexperienced enough at recording stuff. I don't want to bust out of the game and go look for the manual, but I don't know, something about an old debt. You start in debt and the family fortune was lost. Whatever how it is. I suppose if I was a decent enough storyteller, I could start talking that way in here versus just describing the map and whatnot, but I'll maybe leave that for another time. And I think also I learned this from some other YouTuber's channel. This map, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, you can kind of see a track. I mean, he built a go-kart track in there. You can even go race on it, I suppose, if you wanted. And yeah, I don't know, maybe that's why later this map was modified to be Gelvin Valley, to where you could race things on it and play games. But that's yet another detail on here that you just don't see in every other uh, map. Yeah, this combine's just about done. We'll unhire him. One last little bit. Alright, time to head to the next field. Yeah, it's really not a very big combine, so it's going to take a while to cover the place, but that's alright. I like this combine. Yeah, look at him. Hillside all the way, going up the hill, still keeping her level. This is kind of a dirt road in the back country, if you will. I don't think there's any traffic on this particular road, so I like this road because of that. There's nothing to get in the way when you're moving equipment. And this is another dinky little field here. And once again, there's no way the combine can fit through the gate, so I turned off the collisions over here just so I could get in. So hopefully Wes doesn't mind. I'm going to get him going. Get hired, and now we're going to have all the same acrobatics as it does the outer round again. Yeah, it's thinking hard for some reason. This field reminds me of another issue that I had. I think I already mentioned the bales flying downhill. I would shoot, just take them out of the baler, and they immediately would just bound to the bottom of the hill. So I have that fixed. But another problem, and I'm assuming it's by design, so I say it's a problem. I really shouldn't call it that. But there's a lot of roughness in these fields. So you could really tell when you'd come in here and try to mow the grass, the unevenness of the ground was noticeable, as you tried to do the mowing or whatever you needed to do. Well, it's particularly noticeable when you try to take a plow in there and rip up the ground so you can plant it. And I think it's the way the game scripting works, where the ground is uneven. Every piece of equipment, whether it's a cultivator, plow, or whatever, has this little node on it, or several of them, ground detection node or something, and if it's within a certain threshold of the ground, it either will or it won't do the cultivating or plowing. So in other words, you go over uneven ground, and there are times you can get really frustrated, and the plow will not plow, or the cultivator will not cultivate, or it'll do it sporadically because that little node is either usually raised up above where it needs to be because of the unevenness of the ground. And so for a while, I was just kind of editing the map as we went, and I was trying to smooth out some of the fields just so I didn't have to try to, I mean, you can try to get around it by driving different angles or whatever all over the field and try to come at it a different way and see if you can, plow it or whatever. But I mean, that just makes it longer and more difficult. So, great demand. Too bad I don't have any barley. So anyway, I tried to tackle the problem finally instead of just editing the map, because I wasn't very good at it and still had trouble. I just went and looked at the scripts to try to figure out, where they could be tweaked so that regardless of how bumpy the ground is underneath, that you can still do what you need to do with it. And I'm pretty happy with how it is at the moment. Took just a couple lines of code, but yeah, maybe it's cheating a little bit. I don't know. It seems like in real life, at least the fields I've been in, I don't remember encountering any of that. I mean, yeah, there was bumpy fields all the time, but usually you drop the cultivator or whatever, and it does what it does, and you don't have to worry about it skipping or that kind of thing. So maybe this injects, a little bit of realism or whatever. But other than that, I mean, I really don't have any complaints about the map, and hardly a complaint. It's more just making it more workable for how I like to play it or whatever. Is he getting full? Oh, he is getting full. I don't even know if I have a course play set up for field number 49. I'll just take a gander. Nope. Just an outline. Since we're a little higher elevation, maybe what I'll do on this one, and it's just a dinky little field anyhow. But look at that. Here's what I'm mentioning on the elevation drop. That is one steep road down there coming up this hill through this ravine. We're kind of sitting up here on top. Oops, and I think he's full. So we'll offload him. Yeah, there's a really steep climb up here. And look at that. He's got a duck pond over there. Just love the details. And next to the field there, I think you can see it, he has a walking path. So there's people walking up this hill. As we're kind of driving in around them. And over a little bit further, we'll see it in a bit when I take this to market. There's a bridge that spans over a rocky ravine over there that looks pretty cool, and he set up the walking path so that the people walk across the ravine that way. It's a nice little touch. Yep, there goes one of the cars. On this map, I practically think of the cars as terrorists. You never like having them come around. They always seem to gum up the works. Ooh, combined. Oh, there we go. On a map like this, that's some of the trouble of when I chisel plowed this in. I tried to make it as close to the edge as I could, and I think that makes it hard for things like the auto combine mod to be able to continue conforming to the edges there, so the combine can still back up and do what it needs to do. It's a pretty cool mod. I know on the farm that I grew up on, that was kind of our style, and maybe it's because of how the fields were shaped. Like I say, I think a lot of people typically think of the U.S. as having a lot of square fields or rectangle, to where it's back and forth, just kind of boring, dull. But the farm I worked on was the Lone Oak Farm, and in Oregon there was an map made on it, and anybody that's played on that map in FS17 or 19 knows that there's some square corners, but there's a lot of twists and turns and fields, they'll look just like this. I always like that. I know working on the farm, I never had to worry about the details, the weather, how to pay the bills and all that. I was just a farm hand, so I got kind of the fun part of the work, if you will. But I always liked it, having a field that had character. Whether it was a steep hill to try to figure out how to farm it and work on it, or just twists and turns. It just looks more aesthetically pleasing to the eye and more interesting, as you're working in the field, versus seeing the same thing all day long and I mean, it's a long day as it is, you know, to be in a combine or tractor all day. So I'll take every little bit of interest I can get. And maybe that's another reason why I appreciate this map. It's just has character. You know, I'm reminded of something with these trees. I don't know if I can get close to them here. I don't know if these are FS13 trees. I do know these are not the base game FS15 trees. They're a richer green. They look pretty good. Well, at least to my eyes. I like them. I know they're cuttable, but I don't know where he got them. You know, like across the way, you know, whatever kind of trees those are. I don't know if those are maples or maybe they're birch. Well, I can't really tell. I don't know my trees, I guess. But I think those came with the base game of FS15. But these here, I don't know where Wes got them. The trouble is, if you cut them down and plant new ones, well, the new trees are going to be the base game trees. So I wonder how hard it would be to take them out and turn them into another type of plantable tree. Kind of on another map I've been fiddling with, I added some additional trees, but yeah, it can be a lot of work to add modifications that you want. So who knows where he got the trees, but I like them. I think they fit really well with the color tones and everything else that he has going on in this map. And we're basically at the edge of the map. Well, I guess we're not. We're in field 49. There's a little bit further to go to get to the map edge. But you can see it from here. But doesn't that look pretty good? You can hardly tell that's the edge of a map up there. It looks like it just keeps going on and on. That's pretty cool. I should probably, well, Okay, he's filling up. I guess I could go offload him and set up a course. It's hardly worth setting a course, seeing how small this field is, but that's alright. I'll save it so I don't have to ever do it again. Guess I'll take on the fly. And this combine, by the way, I mentioned doing a bunch of tweaks to it. Whoever made it, I'm sure this is much more realistic. They had a really slow output auger, unloading auger on the thing. So you'd sit there a long time to wait to fill a trailer like this. And I'm sure that's probably more true to real life. But I kind of like it to go a little bit faster. There's just not enough hours in the day, I guess. So, once again, I'm going to start back here with the course. Let's see. Start it here. You need to have at least 2 of those dots. There's the second. 4 will let you turn, so I'll see if I can get to... Okay, there's a walking trail, by the way, going over the ravine. Oops! Not paying attention to my driving. So I'll just try to set up this course. This stuff here, I'm going to take the sell point over at Pheasant Pluckers. Kind of like some of the names he has built in. I'm not even sure this is supposed to be a driving road down here, but we're going to use it. That's another thing I've had to get used to on this map. I really enjoy the British maps, you know, that I've played on, but I'm not always the best, because over in the US we drive on the right side of the road, and Over in the UK and Ireland, I think they all drive on the left side of the road. So I don't dare do it the way I'm used to, or traffic is going to clean my clock. So I've been trying to behave and do everything on the left side of the road like I'm supposed to. Anyway, this up here is a sell point. Pheasant pluckers. I'm just going to zip in here. Hopefully without hitting anything with my terrible keyboard steering. Zipping cab it real quick. See if I can get rid of a little bit of red ink. And it won't be much. Yeah, look at that. Still negative 36,000. Out on the street, try to keep from hitting hard objects. Kind of ignoring the stop signs. I know when I watched Wes play this, with his style being in cab, I mean, I noticed he was very fastidious about blinkers, or maybe I'll call them indicator lights. We call them blinkers. And looking left and right and obeying the traffic signs, and oh, I guess that little bit of realism I just kind of let slide. I've never worried too much about that. But each to their own. It's a great game. We can all play it however we like. I don't know, the course play would stop at stop signs anyhow. Maybe somebody knows a way to do it. I sure don't. Oops, I probably should have been a little bit further over. Try to get this guy turn in front of this car. Oops. Oh, look, I keep from running these people over. Excuse me. Get him back to the field. Sure, the combine probably doesn't have more in it yet. And we're done. So I'm gonna call. Oh, let's see. What do I call it on these others? 42 to pheasant. I'm gonna call this. This is 49. 49 combi to pheasant. Good old pheasant pluckers. I think that's the best prices for both barley and wheat. Oh yes, and course play is gonna. Well, wait a minute. Maybe he's smart enough to go around. Sometimes course play, you know, where it isn't a uniform field, or there's strange corners, and it'll try to go through fences, but, you know, it's behaving right here. I have no idea why. We try to help the combine out. Gets down to a small little patch like this and just takes forever to get through it. And of course our course play is stopped on the fence again. Or maybe it's a tree this time. He might be a tree hugger for all I know. Let me just get through this and then we'll go help him out. I think I've seen in some videos the course play just gets played up as incompetent hired help. And maybe that's all it is. Yep. Let's get off of there. We'll drag you back over. Take you under the pipe. You know, now that I'm thinking of it, before climbing up this hill, maybe I should have addressed that other field. There's a pasture. I guess I'm desperate for land, so I ripped up a pasture and planted it also to wheat, because I don't have any cattle on it at the moment. Oops, hold on. Remove combine assignment. You got nothing to do. Go back to here. Get him going again. Yeah, I don't know why auto combine has to think so hard about starting right there, but oh well. Anyway, I got another field to do with this, so I think I'm gonna migrate him up the hill, and you'll see kind of how underpowered, or it's gonna feel underpowered, where you just wish he had more horsepower under the seat when you tackle a hill like this. One thing to go over with an ice hillside combine, stay on the level, not have any trouble climbing the hills or doing what you need on it. But this one here, he's gonna have a struggle to take care of this. But we'll get the job done. Get in our gate here. I should have dropped it right as I got in. Alright, we'll take our 2 rounds. See if I can keep from doing too poor driving here with my keyboard steering. And here comes the climb. I think I can, I think I can. 5, 4 mile an hour. Yeah, I thought it would dip down. It's, you can't even tell in here. It doesn't even look all that steep when you're in cab. But when you look at it out of cab, that's just brutal. But that's alright. We put on our big boy pants this morning so we can handle the hills. But it doesn't really take much of a hill, and in real life, it can be really challenging. The Lone Oak farm that I worked on had a number of challenging hills, and tried to help that with hillside combines, for the harvest. But that's only during harvest, Every other bit of work has to be done with conventional flatland machines and tractors and whatnot. So good lot of the time you were sitting at an angle in your seat all day, which can make for a long day. But I liked it. It added some extra challenge, and I guess it helped make you feel that you were alive. There was or could be some scary moments too, if you weren't careful and didn't respect the hills, as to what could happen on them. There was a neighbor at my uncle's who owned Lone Oak. They did a bunch of farming together over the years, and so I was in his fields too, and he had some even steeper ground. And I know there was one time one of my younger brothers was riding a tractor. It was, I think it was one of the old 4020 John Deeres, and the transmission just popped free, and they were on this hill, and they weren't able to get it stopped in time, and basically had to ride it to the bottom. I have no idea how fast they were going. It's just they were hauling a water trailer behind them, and it's just a wonder, they didn't flip that thing before they got to the bottom. But that was just some of the things you had to watch for and be careful if you were doing tillage or something, um, meaning you had tines in the ground, well, that's going to hold you to the hill. That shouldn't be too big of a deal. But if you're freewheeling it, Katie, bar the door. You got a ride coming. I never did ask Wes about this, if the farm. I don't know if he grew up on a farm or or not. I know he's basing this on a particular area. I'd be curious to know, just what kind of area his personal farm was, or that his father had growing up. I've seen that with a lot of mappers, in the FS world. They tend to make a map of the area where they grew up, or for starters, I know like that's what Bola Bill did with Coldborough Park Farms. I think that's where he grew up, and I know if I ever made a map, I'd probably want to make a really big one of Lona Oak. Fortunately, I never had to make one of Lona Oak because Bola Bill, Bola Bill did it. But I don't know what kind of farm Wes grew up on. So maybe he had to wrangle hills like this too. I'm a little skeptical that the combine. Well, what do you know? I guess the combine is behaving itself. It just has a lot of turning around to do. I'll leave that set up for GPS. Keep my eyes straight, windrows. Yeah, it doesn't exactly play well with the hills when you're on the steep of a hill with GPS. I think they skip a little bit. Oh, I missed a little bit of rain right there. Ah, I bet that little sprig is the difference between a prophet and not. Maybe. In the farm that I worked on, we didn't grow wheat very often, but I remember seeing that, and it always was hard to just leave even a little bit there. I don't know why. Probably just psychological. Feels like if it's there, well, you planted it, you need to harvest it too. And that's all she wrote. So I'm going to sneak up the hill in this thing. Yeah, it's not going to even like climbing this hill. Come on, Granny. Yeah, look at this dry gulch ravine, if you will. Looks like it has dead plants in there, and I think what he's done is he's put wheat in there that's now withered, maybe? So it's dry, but you can just imagine there's times a year when water would come rushing through there. I think on the map he's even colored it as if water comes in. It goes up to that duck pond. Just a cool detail. And the map has such a big map feel. Oh, look at that, he's done. But it's only a standard sized map. In terms of numbers of fields, I don't know that it even has 60 fields. I see a number of 56. So it isn't a huge number. There's some big, some small, but still plenty of area for the farms, for extra things to see, whether it's that walking trail or just scenery type things. And so it really has a feel of a much bigger map. than what it truly is. C4 of, yeah, I'm gonna send him off to market. We'll see if he can figure out where to go. Yeah, this combine also has an IC control, so every time I randomly hit the space bar the wrong way, it thinks I'm trying to do something. I've never really gotten into those controls, probably just because, you know, I don't play in cab most of the time, so don't really have a need to open doors or open windows or that kind of thing. Maybe I need to be honking my horn at these people to get out of the way. Yeah, I don't care what area of the world you're in. Moving farm machinery on the road is always a challenge. It can be a little ticklish. I never really liked it on the farm. It always made me nervous, whether it's taking a combine or tractors out on the road and cars coming, and yeah, every now and again you'd hit a mailbox or take out one of the county signs, a stop sign or something, and or just hit a tree. I remember seeing one guy take a combine out of the field, and man alive, he about peeled all the paint and the top of it off, trying to stay out of the way of a car being on the edge of the field or the road, and he just ran it through a tree. And yeah, just one of those challenges to deal with. Yeah, 'cause you'd always have a car, kind of like this one right here, just coming up your bumper and expecting you to get out of their way. Maybe I should here. We would try to do that. You know, if we had a long ways to go, just get out of their way so they could continue on their way. I worked for another farmer that had his ground was closer to town, closer to more urban areas and more people. And I remember one time he chose to move combines. We were done with the field and it was right at 5 o'clock rush hour. And that was just a harrowing experience. I mean, traffic was plugged up, and yeah, I saw several birds fly. They were not happy with me and the other guy at all, but what can I say? The boss said to move, and so we moved. This is so steep in here. I don't think traffic runs down this road. I think it kind of dead ends over here. This next field we're going to. There's a big old flat area here for a placeable. He's built in a ton of placeable areas on this map. You know, as if it didn't have enough going on already. He's built that into the mix. So I got a number of placeable mods on here, but I gotta make some money first so I can even afford them. I don't know what all ones I have, but maybe some fruit trees and whatnot. Yeah, here's another tiny gate. I think this is the only entrance. This combine's never gonna make it, so I remove collisions over here. So, alright, we're in the field. Here we go again. This also was another grass field. It's kind of a cool field. We'll get up to the top here. You can just see it through the trees. Oh, and look at those trees. Here's something else this guy did, Wes, when he made it. See that one over there, kind of at an angle? Um, can't see my hand pointing at it, obviously. Not every tree is standing up straight. Oh, and even this one here more in the foreground isn't either. There's some other roads where, just kind of like in real life, when the trees get in your way, you have to pull out the chainsaw and trim them. I don't think I have any in the way at the moment, but I was just noticing there's some trees that are a little bent over. I know at one point I was working on a mod. I kind of abandoned it. It was pretty hard due to my lack of skill, but basically a storm type mod that, you know, if a windstorm came through, that it would rip up trees, knock them out, take off branches, or kind of like this tree is here, maybe bend it over a little bit. I mean, shoot, that happens all the time here. I'm sure lots of areas, you know, we'll get so much rain that it weakens the root system of the tree, and it doesn't take much of a windstorm then to kind of push it over, and maybe it stays standing, but it's kind of bent over. So, all right, let's go see. Oh, good guy. He's back to here. Let me get him turned around. I suppose if I really want to do this right, I need to turn on my blinkers and all that stuff. Here we go. Off to the field. Yeah, horn works. I know in West Place he honks at everything. There's a duck's quacking. Nice little detail there. Due to my playing style, I often don't appreciate or see all the road signs, but boy, he has them everywhere in here, just telling you where stuff is. I think I'd notice them more if I played more in cab. Just a pile load of work that he went to put all that in here. Some animated horses over there. That's a sell point in there. I think it's still a little better at pheasant pluckers. I think in FS15, the pricing model when you sell stuff wasn't fully developed, or whatever, if you will, or not as developed, I guess you would say, as later versions of the game, you know, where you would, you know, it seems like in FS15 there would be a certain selling point where you sold something all the time because it was always the best price. You know, unless you happen to have a great demand or something that would raise one of the others. But I think at FS17 and beyond, they started to fix that. So, you know, there'd be much more variability between them. You wouldn't always go to the same one. And you could start impacting demand by how much you sold it there. So if you sell a lot, it's going to drive the price down and that sort of thing. So let me drive back here. This is another cool field. No square corners. This narrow little thing. This used to be a grass field. It's steeper than all get out on the over the edge over there. So it was a challenge. You know, he's got weeds in these fields. Technically, this would run with the soil mod. Remember that back in FS15? I've never used the soil mod, not that much. I want to make a little money here first and kind of get my feet under me before I attempt to do that. I think there's quite a bit more field operations that would be involved. So I want to have a little bit more. Oh, there's a couple more bent over trees. That must be a storm that happened. It's kind of cool to see that. I don't know what's happening here. It looks like he's stalled. Yeah, he's spinning. I think when I dragged chisel plow through here, I got a little close to the fence. So he's always going to kind of wrestle with that. But I'm looking at the clock here and I see it's almost 1:30 in the morning, so I gotta go to work tomorrow, so I really should probably stop this here. Oh, here he is hitting another post. You know what? I'm just gonna take him off higher. Pause there. You know, look at that. This here is right along the edge of the map, and even though There's a drop off. I have to say that's still pretty good. You know, I know when you look at it there, you can see the edge. You can see it, you know that it's there and it drops off, but there's just the way you handle it with the colors. And the hills on this, when you know it's so steep, you kind of do expect the drop off or whatever effect. So I don't know what else could be done to make that a little better, but I think it's just fine as it is. I pretty much don't even hardly notice it when I'm playing along here. There's another edge. I think the trees along here kind of help that effect. There's another field on here, field number 42, where the effect is a little bit more noticeable, and it kind of uh, takes the immersion out of it a little bit, but not much. So I think I'm gonna leave my little hillside combine park there. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Held up by air. Isn't that just an amazing machine? I thought I'd fix some of that. There's that leveling cylinder in there that's just rammed into the side of the tire. Yep, that wouldn't work in real life, so I guess I got more tweaking to do. I think the FS17 version of this same mod was much better put together. I don't know if it's the same people that did it or if they just further refined it. It still had a couple issues, but it was a very good mod, FS17. So, anywho, I'm gonna hit save, and I think we're gonna call this good. I have no idea if everything I've said has even been recorded. I don't even know how long this thing has been. I guess if you've hung in there, thanks for all that. And I don't know if I'll ever do another one of these again, but sure was fun doing one for now. Take care and goodbye.